I'm joined by Mr. Harsha de Silva. Harsha doesn't need any introduction in Sri Lanka. He is the brain behind Samagi Jana Balawegaya, that is the opposition party headed by Mr. Sajith Premadasa's manifesto and the campaign strategies this election. Sajith is leading the vote this time and he is popular among the masses. And Harsha has a very big say in the manifesto and the strategies devised by Samagi Jana Balawegaya. So let us ask him what he has to say about the elections and what are the strategies he has proposed for the victory of SJB. Good evening, Mr. Harsha. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Just coming back from Parliament, tiring days, the campaign in full swing.
Yes. So, how do you think this president election is going to stay in the minds of the people, or how important is this election for the people of Sri Lanka?
Well, I mean, it is to save democracy the way we see it, because opposition comes from a very sort of a troubled sort of history. It has had been at the center of two armed insurrections, 71 and 88, 89. But of course, they've now changed. They've come to the mainstream and with a different name. But a lot of people find it a little difficult to sort of see the JVP, which is really the driving force of the NPP, sort of taking a back seat in their ideology. Having said that, our main competitor is the NPP JVP. The president is, in my mind, is a distant third. And we have basically told the people, look, we need to continue with some of the difficult decisions that the president has had to take to sort of take the country out of the depths of the crisis. Nothing is going to be easy in the coming few years. But at the same time, we realize that a lot of people are in poverty, unprecedented for this beautiful country. We've never seen such desperation, at least not in my lifetime. And so we are offering them a democratic way of life, and we are telling them, look, let's get together, let's believe in markets, let the markets do its job, and then at the same time, we will ensure economic justice. You know, everybody has to get a share of the pie, and let us really once and for all integrate Sri Lanka with the rest of the world and create growth and sort of, you know, take this country to where it belongs. So it's a tough one because you know, in troubled times, people tend to believe a lot of fairy tales. When certain people come and say, look, you know, we can reduce taxes, we can give this free, that free, etc. So it's a responsible proposition versus, you know, others that, in my mind, are quite irresponsible.
So what are SJB's strategies in terms of facing the people this time? Because it is a tough election for everyone. The country is in an economic crisis, is facing an economic crisis, though the IMF bailout package has been of help to you, but this country is still facing the crisis. And then there is price rise, there is inflation, there is fuel and shortage, though not seen, but it is all there. And then the living cost has gone up, and also inflation. So what do you have to say? How is that you have strategized to reach the people and bridge the gap between the rich and the poor in Sri Lanka?
Well, I mean, this election is not about corruption, even though people say it is about corruption. And some people think, look, if you remove corruption, things will be all hunky-dory. Removing corruption and dealing with corruption is only a necessary condition. It is not a sufficient condition to deal with people's desperation. And people's desperation is coming from at the bottom, just the inability to make ends meet. I mean, we've had 3 million people in poverty in this country, which was still a pretty high number when Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa became president. But after he destroyed the economy, it has gone to 7 million people, which is almost a third of this country's total population. So the need to be able to survive, like I said, unlike in the past, is very much there, right? So what relief can they get is kind of their first sort of hope and expectation. Now in that situation, we have to also note we are working within an IMF program, and the fiscal space that we have to sort of give out subsidies, etc., is limited. So therefore, we have had to come up with innovative structures so that we will try to discriminate between the rich and the poor in a good way, so that we'll have to get the rich people to pay, but at the same time the people who need support will be able to be helped. So for instance, our subsidy programs are all going to be sort of structured on means-tested basis, using a lot of digital infrastructure to make it work. We're working with the folks who help build Aadhaar and trying to create something similar here so that we can use QR codes and cash transfers, etc., so that we are able to put more than what we have been able to put in right now to sort of look after the bottom and not sort of give out freebies to the rich.
But you already have this national ID, so you mean you're going to digitize that and work on it?
That national ID is not the national ID that we are referring to, a unique ID, right? So your Aadhaar card number is unique to each and every Indian person, citizen. Now that is a verifiable QR and it's connected. Here it is a standalone. So we need to create that unique ID. So we have one of our platforms, foundations on which our economic plan is built is a digital public infrastructure. So one is a unique ID, one is the ability to transact, pay and receive payment, and the third is to be able to share private data based on consent. So we believe on that structure, we would be able to sort of improve the revenue collection, reduce the wastage, and also be able to target subsidies. So that's kind of how we're looking at helping those who are in dire need. Middle class, we've had to increase taxes. At $1,000, you hit the highest marginal tax bracket of 36%, which is hurting a lot of people, professionals, doctors, lawyers, accountants. And we've seen a lot of brain drain, people just voting with their feet, because Sri Lankans are able to sort of get jobs, professional jobs in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, UK. We've seen large numbers of young talent migrating. So we need to try and hold them back. So we are proposing a middle class tax cut to be able to give a little bit more for them to sort of, these guys, young people, they have their commitments, they have their credit cards, they have their housing mortgages, their car leases, etc. Right? You got to understand that these are two different groups of people.
Yes.
So we are looking at that, and well, the rich will have to pay. So, but for the the enterprises, we're looking at how we can support export industries and so on. So it's a mixed offering, and we are trying to segment the different groups and try to address those groups the best way possible.
So you explained to me about like how you're going to bridge between the rich and the poor. Is the IMF bailout package now satisfactory? Do you want to extend, or do you want to go with the bailout package now? And in terms like at one moment you will have to repay. So how you want to work out on the IMF package? You want to continue, because there have been voices in the country saying that we want to come out of the IMF, we don't want it. So how is that you're going to handle that?
Oh, it's very responsible to say we want to change the what is called the DSA, that's the debt sustainability analysis. Some people want to offer alternate DSAs and try to renegotiate the IMF program. That's pie in the sky. You can theoretically argue this, but this is tied to the debt restructure, it's tied to the loans that we took from India and the promise to pay back those loans, the loans we took from China and the promise to pay back those loans. It's tied to the international sovereign bonds, billions and billions of dollars that are all connected to this DSA analysis and the parameters that are based on that analysis. So what we've said is we will pretty much stick with the existing foundation, the DSA. But I must tell you here, some people think that that we are being sort of captured by the IMF, and we say, look, nothing can be changed. That's the furthest from the truth. The fact is, this DSA gets updated every quarter, and every time the IMF comes here on a mission, they compare notes and they update it. So it's an updated version that we are working on. But we have to go along with it. And but inside the program, there are several places where we want to change emphasis and also bring in tax equity. Like I said, the middle class tax cut. All those things are within the contours of the program. So the answer to your question is yes, we will continue with the program, but we will make certain amendments.
So renegotiate.
Well, I don't want to use the word renegotiate. I would rather say sit and amend it in such a way that we are responsible to meet those targets, the undertakings, and at the same time try to bring in a little bit more justice, economic justice to the people. So that's kind of our plan.
Let me take you out from economy, IMF and all. So let us talk some politics, some hard politics. So why do you think people will have to vote for Mr. Sajith Premadasa this time?
Well, I mean, the people have three choices really. People have the leftist choice, which is now couched in some center-looking facade, but at the core is this Marxist ideology, which has a very, very dark past. And then you have Mr. Wickremesinghe, who is a neoliberal and has a program that basically says, my way or the highway. And then you have Sajith, who's saying, look, I believe in the markets, I believe in the international integration that is necessary to create growth and all that. But at the same time, I'm a humanitarian. I understand the issues of the downtrodden. You know, he's called the Podi Minihage Sajith. Podi Miniha meaning small man's leader. You know, that's his.
What do you call it?
Podi Miniha.
Podi Miniha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Podi meaning small, Miniha meaning man, right? So what it means is, look, you know, he will look after us. Is a general consensus, right? He is a compassionate man, right? So you need that, right? So therefore, Sajith's sort of appeal, his offering is not just Sajith, it's a team around Sajith. You know, there are many of us who work very closely with him, and we've been doing it for the last 4 years, and we've been able to sort of try and get across to the population. Look, there is a bunch of folks who are with Sajith, who's able to and has the ability and has the understanding and the global connections to make this work. So Sajith, the compassionate leader, and a team that is a professional, experienced, globally connected one that will be able to deliver, you know, what the people want. So.
But you had the best opportunity in 2022 during the uprising. People expected that Mr. Sajith will take over and lead the country forward. But do you feel that you missed that opportunity?
Well, it's like this. I mean, on the 10th of May, that is after the 9th when the MP's homes were burnt and all that happened, I was one of the 4 people who met with Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the General Secretary of our party, Mr. Ranjimadum Bandara, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, Mr. Kabir Hashim and myself. We had a 2.5-hour conversation with him. Basically what we told him is we are ready to take over. Transition is possible in the next few days, but there are some basic things that you and I, or we have to agree upon. And that was based on a document that had been prepared by the Sri Lanka's Bar Association, which is or was not and is not and will be not a political, sometimes some people try to make it, association. And the 4 points that we discussed was A, you know, the abolition of the presidency and when Gotabaya Rajapaksa was going to leave. There were 2 separate things but put together. But before that was an immediate implementation of the 19th Amendment of the Constitution, which gave which gave greater power and authority to Parliament as opposed to concentrating power in the presidency. Because Mahinda Rajapaksa had done it, then Sirisena came and undid it, then Gotabaya Rajapaksa did it again. So that was the first one. That 2 and 3 was what I just mentioned. And the last one was, you know, everybody had said all 225 should be chased away, MPs, right? So when would we hold a general election? Because anyone who was to take this country forward needed a mandate. So those were the 4 points that we discussed, nothing other than that, nothing, no personal issues. While the discussion was going on, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe basically said, look, there are no conditions, I'll take it. That's really what happened. And then he sort of upstaged Sajith and took it. And we had even written a letter, you know, let's talk about the logistics of the transition. So there are multiple stories that the Rajapaksas never wanted Sajith to take it. It was just eyewash. And they always wanted
So they didn't
RW.
agree to your conditions is what you mean?
No, I mean, there was no conditions as such. You know, these are things that needed to be done. That is what Aragale was about.
So they didn't want that to be done. But Mr. Gotabaya, in his book that was released last year, he talks about the conspiracy, the international conspiracy and conspiracy within the country to ouster him from the president post. Though he doesn't name anyone, he goes around everyone in the country, including the political class.
I don't believe a word of that. That's not true. He messed up. I mean, he took some bad decisions. And management, good management is, even if you take a bad call, to be able to sort of come out of it. Okay, so you reduce taxes thinking, you're going to give a boost to the businesses, the commercial enterprises, the investors. But then suddenly COVID happens and things change. Then you need to be able to change. You have to be dynamic. You can't say, look, I took this decision, so therefore I'm not going to change anything. That's really not smart. And then
Mr. Ranil says that Sajith ran away and he did not want to take it. He did not want to take the responsibility. Then that is a huge accusation, don't you think?
Yeah, which we have sort of challenged. I wish he didn't do that, because he knows what he's saying is not true. And he's got 2 or 3 other mouthpieces to do that. Yes, we all knew it was a big challenge. And Sajith, to be honest, said, look, how am I going to do this without a majority in the House? So these are all legit issues, right? But what the Aragalia wanted was change. And that change was prevented by the current administration, because currently what you have is the same set of people who bankrupted the country have now joined with RW and basically running the show. So there is no change, right? So Sajith never ran away. Sajith was doing it the way he thought was the best. And I am first-hand, this is not somebody told me, I was there. And I've challenged all these people who've been accusing Sajith unfairly. None of those guys were there. There were 4 of us, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the president, and 2 of his ministers, Ramesh Patirana and Nalaka Godeheva. I mean, I can be open about this. I have spoken about it in Parliament because I'm witness to what happened, right? So that is really what happened.
Is Nalaka Godeheva with you now?
Well, he has joined our party, yes.
Okay. And RW, as you said, he's running on this slogan called "He saved the country when it was in debt default," and he believes that he can come back to power or he can retain power. So, do you think he actually got the country out of the debt crisis?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people who worked on this matter. Several things needed to have happened. One is the central bank had to stop printing money, and it need to bring in discipline into the activities there, because the previous governor, Nimad Cabral, totally politicized the central bank and just started printing money like there was no tomorrow. People like us, kept saying in Parliament, don't do this, the inflation will go through the roof, the currency will depreciate. He didn't listen. So inflation went to 70 plus, currency fell from 210 to 370. People were hammered left, right and center. So what the governor did, actually he was overlooked and he migrated to Australia. And then he was invited back and then he came. He immediately knew what needed to have been done. It's 101, in monetary economics, you have to increase policy rates, which he did, 700 basis points, huge rise. He sort of, brought the economy to almost a screeching halt, which obviously had other repercussions, negative growth, job losses and things like that. But what he wanted to do was to contain inflation. And then a new central bank act was brought in. prohibited printing of money, and then the IMF program had to do a lot with fiscal discipline, to keep our fiscal house in order, the treasury in some control, and then the reforms in the state-owned enterprises. A big thing was the market pricing of fuel and electricity, which was cost-reflective pricing. So it was an effort by, I think, everyone, because we didn't oppose in Parliament any of these things that had to be done. So ultimately the law was passed in Parliament. Right? We didn't oppose the IMF agreement. Right? We didn't oppose the Central Bank Act. We didn't oppose the Debt Management Act. We didn't oppose the Public Finance Management Act. So we played a very responsible role. Yes. So I think if somebody is trying to take credit by him or herself or one group, I think it's just that's really not what happened. We were a responsible opposition, and we worked towards bringing some sort of stability. There is some stability, but at a different equilibrium. I mean, in the sense, people say, well, there are no gas lines, you have 24 hours power, which is true. But earlier also we didn't have gas lines, and we had 24 hours of electricity. Yes. But the difference is, at that time only 3 million people were poor. Now 7 million people are poor, right? So it's not the same. It's a different equilibrium, right? If no gas lines is the sort of the measure, then no gas lines, and what's the other box?
And one of your most important promises to abolish the executive presidency. So if the executive presidency goes off, and even when Mr. Sajith is elected, he will not be as powerful as the current president or the earlier presidents. So won't it be detrimental to you? Do you think abolishing executive presidency is the need of the hour?
Well, actually, this is a conversation that has happened for the last several decades. Everyone said they were going to abolish the executive presidency, but no one did. So therefore, there is an expectation in this country that it will be done at some point, right? So it is not just the abolition of the office, but also a constitution that allows the abolition of the executive presidency, but at the same time, be able to maintain law and order, the territorial integrity of this country, this country as being one Sri Lanka. So there are concerns that are raised by various political groups that abolishing the presidency will be detrimental to national security and so on. But there has to be a conversation, and it is, to change the constitution is not easy, right? So you need 2/3 majority, you need a referendum. So it will be debated far and wide before any decision is taken on the change of the constitution without an executive presidency.
I have two more questions.
Yeah.
The first one is on the Tamil question.
Yeah.
The Tamils supported you in 2019 elections, and Sajith had the majority of Tamil votes in the 2019 elections. And again now they have pledged their support for you, because the ITAC had announced its support day before, and even when there were confusions, he had met Mabai, and the support is ensured. Now, what is your take on the Tamil national question and the 13th Amendment? Because their only demand is that resolve the dissolution of powers and powers to the provincial councils and the 13th Amendment.
Yeah.
So, what do you have to say on this?
I mean, there was a time when we were looking at issues as Tamil issues, Sinhala issues, Muslim issues. I think we've come to a stage that we got to start thinking about Sri Lankan issues, because poverty doesn't discriminate between Tamils, Muslims and Sinhalese. It doesn't discriminate between Hindus, those of the faith of Islam, and Catholics, Christians and Buddhists, right? So these are common issues that we have to face. So in that context, I think not finally, but even now, this 2 days ago, when Mrs. Sumandaran made that announcement, right, that there is no point in supporting a Tamil candidate who's going to sort of, fight the system, is never going to make any difference to the people who are suffering, rather, work with some party that has a good chance of winning, and then be able to work with those people to win the rights of that community. So in that sense, what Sajith has said is the full implementation of the Constitution. The Constitution has the 13th Amendment, which provides certain rights to the provincial councils. And what is in the Constitution, the President is mandated to implement, right? So there are issues about police powers, there are issues about land powers, but I think we're all grown up, and nobody wants to separate this island, so it's a matter of sitting together with faith, and trust between both sides, and come to a good sustained solution. And there may be more than one way of devolution of power. There may be more than one unit of devolution. These conversations are happening, but in the Constitution there is something written down, right? So that is what Sajith has said he will implement. Right? So if there are alternate suggestions, certainly I guess people can have a conversation and arrive at something most meaningful. I remember Mr. Sambandhan saying one day, don't give something that you don't want to give us. Give something, or let's agree on something that you people are comfortable with. What's the point in somebody promising something and the majority is unwilling to accept it? So the best way is, to work with the Sinhalese people, get the trust of the Sinhalese people, tell the Sinhalese people, this is what we are going to do with the Tamil people, and then it is a much more robust and a much stronger solution, and it will last.
That's right. So, how is India engaging with you? When Mr. Doval was here, he had met all the president aspirants, and he had a conversation with Ms. Sajith also. And you have been in touch with Mr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia, and there have been a lot of interactions between your Indian counterparts. So, how does India engage with you, and where do you see the relationship with India when you are in power?
India is our closest friend, and I tell you, it's not the IMF that bailed us out, it was India that bailed us out. I recall telephone conversations, even though I was an opposition MP, every other day almost, about money that was necessary to keep our system going. Whether it is for fuel, whether it is for medicine, whether it is for food. And I recall one incident when Mr. Jaishankar was here. He visited ambulance, the 1990 Suicide ambulance, which is really was started with a generous grant of $25 million from the people of India. It is now fully maintained and operated by us, taxpayer money. recently got an accolade by the World Bank as one of the world's most digitally advanced and fastest ambulance services. We're very proud of that. And even Mr. Chandrasekharan was here a few months ago, and he saw 300 Tatas that's running across this country, and he asked us what else he could do. So we said, look, I mean, we could always have more ambulances, and he's written to us, and he's sending us 50 brand new, fully equipped more ambulances. So it's, I got sidetracked. But when Mr. Jayashankar came, you know, we were running out of medicines in our ambulances. So he asked me, Harsha, what can I do? I said, you know, this is my list. Can you help us with it? You know, matter of 2 weeks, huge containers arrived in aeroplanes, and you know, and it was brought to plane. It was brought to the command and control, and we took all of it. When we didn't have fuel to run our ambulances, I'm saying it because we were running the most critical operation. So Indian Oil Company said, pay when you can. Right? So those are the touching moments of what a relationship really, what it means. Right? And if they didn't tell us, pay when you can, we would have not been able to run those units. Right? So, I mean, you know, I don't need to explain to you, you know, what would have happened. And then you know, the almost $4 billion worth of assistance, you know. So India really stepped in and stepped up and extended India's hand. So we are very, very grateful. And you know, so that's done, and we need to move on. And you know, I was talking to Mr. Palnivel Tyagaraja also recently. Is look, you know, Tamil Nadu and you know, Andhra, Telangana, Karnataka, you know, Kerala also is like really growing very fast. You know, and people say Tamil Nadu will be $1 trillion by 2031 or 2. And I think there has to be a lot more integration between the south of India and us in the economic equation. You know, and a lot of you know, manufacturing that is taking place. And if you see, a lot of manufacturing is sliced now. You know, you make part here, part there, you know, another part here, and then you sort of assemble it, integrate it in one place. So there is tremendous opportunity for us to ride the south, not just south, but I'm just saying it's close and it's the most dynamic growth story. And I was telling, I was just sharing this story with PTR. I was saying, look, you know, why don't we, you know, immediately, if we win, immediately, you know, set up a big warehouse type operation in Jaffna, air condition it, you know, put 2,000 seats, 2,000 computers, and it becomes a campus of a Chennai based or a Hyderabad based IT enterprise. You know, you can very, very quickly integrate. And now we have Indigo flying once a day to Jaffna.
And then you have the cruise also from Nagapattinam to Kakisanturai.
That is there. But if you can get the flights, you know, 3 times a day, then it becomes just, it's easier, it's actually easier for businesses, enterprises in the south to sort of work with us here as opposed to some faraway place in India. So to me, integration in economics, be part of that production network will be of immense importance, and we need to work on that. And also our ports, the port in Colombo, port in Hambantota, and of course very, very importantly the port in Trincomalee. The IOC has interest in the tank farms there and all that. And if you look at the Bay of Bengal, that whole area, there are no deep sea ports. If you go from Calcutta to Dhaka to the other side. So there is so much potential from Trincomalee to service that sort of geographic, Because at the end of the day, we are the center of the Indian Ocean, right? So it is because we didn't really leverage that geostrategic advantage that we had. My view is that is why Singapore and Dubai came to be. Otherwise, it was really technically should have been Colombo's opportunity. But I think we can more than claw back. We can, get.
Is there any message from Mr. Modi to Ms. Sajith?
Well, Mr. Doval's meeting was private, so I'm not exactly sure what he told Sajith, but we know that India is close to us. We appreciate that, and there are the democratic traditions that we both share, and sort of the market economics, and like you mentioned, Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia was here, and he spoke at one of our events, and it's a lot of common thinking, after 1991, how India avoided the IMF, and how India went from the Hindu rate of growth to the world's fastest growing large economy.
Yes.
There are a lot of lessons there, and our political party, our economic ideology, me personally, closely aligned with that sort of thought.